Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're reviewing the Lexus LC 500. Now this has been a dream car of mine for years at this point, and well, I was lucky enough to be able to have one of these as a test vehicle for the last week, and so I want to talk about whether or not this actually lives up to the hype. So we'll do a normal review in Ben Hardy fashion, and then we'll drive it and we'll kind of talk about that. Before we get in this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Powering the LC 500 is a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy 16 around town and then 25 on the highway, with power outputs being 471 horsepower and then 398 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we go over the front end, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Starting with the hood, you guys can see we've got these really sharp body lines here, and if you're wondering, this color is called cadmium orange. Now, popping down below, we've got the headlights that the LC 500 is famous for. I love how the daytime running light kind of like cuts into the headlight area. It's such a cool effect. And then we do have a little turn signal down below with some venting here on the side. And then of course, you've got Lexus's signature front grille, which looks really good on the LC 500. And putting it all together, even though this car came out for the 2018 model year, I think that it still looks modern and fantastic to this day. Now, popping on the side here, tire wheel setup is 245 40 21 in the front, and then 275 35 21 in the rear. So slightly staggered setup. In terms of the wheel design, I actually prefer the all blacked out wheels in the LC 500, just personal preference, but I think these ones look really good with the blacked out brake caliper. Now, normally I don't mention tire offset on cars, but the LC 500 has quite a bit of positive offset, and you can kind of like really see it with the rear tire and wheel. So yeah, that's definitely something that I'm not a huge fan of. Anyways, you can see the bodywork here at the bottom, and then again with the venting there on the side, looks really cool. But despite my complaints about the positive offset, the side view of this car is just absolutely gorgeous. Like, the design is just perfect. So here's the key fob. We have our unlock function, our lock function, the opening here for the trunk, Lexus logo there on the back. And then when it comes to the cargo space, it's actually not that big. You think that it would be more spacious given the size of the car, but yeah, it's actually kind of small. Anyways, plop, makes a nice satisfying sound. This one has the deployable spoiler, as you can see. Of course, got the logos here on the back, and they have the taillights, which have the really cool like 3-dimensional effect to them. And by the way, that little button right there, that's how you pop the trunk. And then you guys can see the kind of teardrop off to the side. Just a really cool effect overall. And wrapping things up with the taillight design, with the exhaust tip setup and everything, it just has such a cool look to it. And before I forget, this car also happens to have a carbon fiber roof. Now, just like the Porsche 911 that this car is trying to compete against, it does have back seats, as you can see, which are pretty much useless, just like the 911s. I mean, you could fit a kid back there, but it's mostly just storage. And to be honest, I would have rather have Lexus not make this a 4-seater, basically make it a 2-seater, and then just have a bigger cargo space in the trunk, but yeah. Now, normally I don't show payload and gross vehicle weight rating stickers on sports cars, but I find the weight of this car to be very interesting. So payload capacity is 720 pounds, gross vehicle weight rating right there, 5260. So that means this car weighs like 4,500 pounds roughly. Now, weight aside, I love the trim here on the door panel. I think the design is just absolutely gorgeous. Again, even to this day, right? This car is like, what, 5-6 years old, and it still looks great. And then you got your memory seat function here, window controls, the mirrors, they do power fold in, and they have blind spot monitoring. And then taking a look at the front seat here, you guys can see with the inserts there, and then you got the leather trim on the outside, looks great. Carbon fiber here on the door sill, which is also really cool. Power adjustments there on the seat. And then look at the pedals, it's pretty fancy looking. And then you got that to pop open the trunk, heads-up display, your gas cap release, and then the steering wheel is power adjustable. So here's a quick look at the steering wheel. Really nice leather trim all around. You can see it's perforated here on the sides and get slightly better grip. Really nice paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel for the 10-speed. This does have stuff like lane departure. You've got adaptive cruise control, controls for the center stack, and then regular stalks there on the back. Now this has Lexus's cool gauge cluster that actually moves to the side. It's kind of iconic, and that's just so you can see vehicle information and everything. But the really cool part is the drive mode select. So you can see it gets all red and aggressive in Sport Plus mode. And then you have a normal mode, you've got a Comfort and Eco mode, but the Sport Plus mode, that's the thing that's really cool. Now, as you can see, we've got a backup camera with trajectory lines that turn with the steering wheel. Now, as for the infotainment system, this is the worst part about the LC 500. So it's not a touchscreen, it's all controlled via the Lexus keypad. Now, this is the better version of Lexus's keypad, but still, like, okay, look at this. So climate, and then I have to scroll all the way over, and then go seats, and then I have to scroll over here, and then that, like, that's the amount of steps just to do the heated or cooled seats. There's no physical button. So, like, yeah, Lexus's new infotainment system, way better than this one. Now, infotainment system aside, I love the Alcantara here in the dash and then the leather trim. Again, really nice fit and finish, and material use is really cool. I don't know if you guys will see this on camera. It's kind of hard. You have to see it in person. There's this really cool thing behind the glass here that's connected to the crappy infotainment system. But again, look at the trim here, and then I guess we'll just quickly look at the glove box. Pretty decent. It's actually pretty big, to be honest. But yeah, I think they did a good job with the overall like flow of the interior here. And then we also have our climate controls here, dual zone climate for those of you that are wondering. We've got our shifter here for the 10-speed automatic. This does come with auto hold. That's just to raise or lower the spoiler. And then you've got the whole infotainment system control. I will say I do like the control to change the radio stations. I think that one's actually really easy to use, so give them that. And then the center console that does have like the sliding function. Opens up pretty normal. So pretty normal setup right there. And then last but not least, we do have a nice headliner, which is kind of to be expected in this segment. Okay, so here's our window sticker for the LC 500. You guys can see 2023. And then here's the standard equipment. Base MSRP $93,450. And then here are the options on this particular one. You can see total MSRP $106,885. Let's see how it drives. Okay, well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood, and hope you can now see the heads-up display, maybe. Both the mirrors, which do have blind spot monitoring, and throughout the rest of the rear. And let's set off. So let's start things off by getting a little acceleration and having it bounce off the rev limiter. Wait for it. So fun. Yeah, you guys can see it's a pretty quick car, and it sounds so good when you have it bounce off the rev limiter. Now I'm gonna take my entry into this a little bit slow because I actually haven't been down our special Mexico road, whatever you want to call it, since last season, and so I want to see, you know, how bad the potholes are and everything before I, you know, take a cart. There's a squirrel in the middle of the road. Literally didn't leave till like the last second. See, that's a good thing why I'm going slower, so we don't end up with a squirrel on the tire just like staring at us. Anyways, LC 500, I guess this is a good time to talk about how this drives as a luxury car. It actually does a really good job, despite the fact that it has pretty big wheels and is obviously a sports car. The suspension's really compliant and it's very daily drivable. Seat comfort's good. They are more aggressive seats, but again, like I've been daily driving this car. I've absolutely loved every moment of my daily driving experience. So I think they've done a good job. I can actually feel the rear steer here a bit. Suspension popped there. Again, not even going very quick, and yeah, I can feel everything that's happening. Now, aside from that, I kind of talked about this and walk around. Infotainment system is horrible. Like, I can't use it while I'm driving. It's either you drive or you use the infotainment system. Using both, it's kind of a little bit tricky. I'm impressed though the road's not actually too, there's some, you know, on the side is breaking away a little bit, but for the most part, I think we're in the clear. So that's a good sign for our performance driving. Let's have a little bit more fun this time. Gotta love the sound that this naturally aspirated V8 makes. It's such a cool sound. Now, transmission, once you get it warmed up, is super responsive. It's just getting it warmed up takes a while. Oh man, yeah, this car's doing really well over this road. I guess I'm pretty much just need to be in second gear for most of the time. You can feel the weight definitely through the corners. You can, the rear steer helps out quite a bit, but you can feel the weight quite substantially. That is for sure. It's a It's not the heaviest car on the planet, but it is definitely a heavier car, that is for sure. Now, aside from that, the sound is just amazing. 5-liter V8 sounds so good. Okay, so capping things off with our driving review here of the LC500. Hopefully that was enough performance driving for you guys. It'll take me a second to get used to this road again, because it's definitely a more technical route with a car. But anyways, we'll pop it back in the normal mode so you guys can, I guess, see the normal daily driving mode here. I think the car is beautiful on the outside. I think that this car drives really well. I think that the transmission's great. Bad things about the car: infotainment system. I think the price too. Honestly, like with the new C8 Corvette, I think that that's really like shown how much performance you can give the people at a reasonable price point. And so, you know, I think that this car, if it was like $85,000 for how this one's spec'd, I know I'm literally saying $20,000 less. That's kind of crazy, but I think if this was $85,000 roughly, then from a value perspective, I think that's a very, very strong value for what this offers, with the luxury interior experience and all of that kind of stuff. And then I guess my other like hot take on the LC500, if this car had a manual transmission available, right, they could still do the 10-speed, but they also offered a manual. I think that this car wouldn't be overlooked so much by enthusiasts, because honestly, like in the enthusiast world, this car's looked at as kind of like just a boomer, like retirement, like drive around car, right? But if this was 5-liter V8, 470 horsepower, manual transmission, even though you can get a GT Mustang with about the same amount of horsepower, just the looks and the rear steer and all the other stuff this car has, I think it would be a really cool driving experience. Overall, I love the LC500. I'd say just manual, and again, I just think that the price is a little bit high, but I also understand that like this is a more bespoke car for Lexus, where they're not going to build as many, so that's probably what's keeping them from pricing it lower. Because like the Corvette, they sell like 30,000 plus a year, so they can price it lower because, yeah, all that stuff. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about LC500.